Can you hear me? I am calling out, yeah, calling out.
Hey everyone, Bobby here from Sweetwater Studios, here to talk about some incredible plugins by Kilohearts, now available at Sweetwater. So I'm working on a song right now. It's like an EDM dubstep song, and I've used Kilohearts plugins all over the place on it. I've used their flagship virtual instrument phase plant. I've used a bunch of their snap-ins. I've used their snap-in hosts, both Snap Heap as well as multipass. So yeah, I'm going to go through some of the sections of this song and show you how I've used it. So like I said, this is a dubstep EDM song. It's got kind of a chilled out intro, a verse with some vocals in it, a quick build, and then a heavier drop. So let's go through some of these sections and hear what they sound like. So the intro, we got the verse with some vocals.
Can you hear me? I am calling out, yeah, calling out your name.
Shout out to my friend and coworker Andy for providing these vocals. It's one of the cool things about working at Sweetwater. You have 80% of the company is a musician in some way, shape, or form. So just like walking down the hallway and it's like, hey, want to hop on a track? Sure. It's really cool. We got a quick build and then the heavier drop. So like I said, I've used the Kilohearts plugins all over this song. One of my favorite uses for it is as a virtual instrument. So they have their flagship instrument, phase plant. When you first open up phase plant, this is what you see. You have three main sections. You have your generator section, you have your effects section, and you have your modulator section. Your generator section, this is where you can create oscillators or a sampler or even a wavetable. It comes stock with a bunch of really awesome samples as well as awesome wavetables. You can add some simple effects such as distortion or filters. Then you have some utilities such as different outputs, auxiliaries, and so forth. Let's take a look at how I've used it in a few instances. So right here, I used the sampler generators a lot and a bunch of their effects. And I use this to create this kind of like ethereal vocal pad sound. So I'm just going to use one individual note. And it creates this big like soundscape, this lush padding background, vocally timbre thing. So I used the vocals from this track in the samplers within phase plant. I used it 3 different times, and I've just made a loop out of each of them with a really, really, really long crossfade. One of them's looping backwards, the other 2 are looping forwards. Then they go into these effects here. So it's got a chorus, another chorus, a reverb, a delay, another chorus, another delay, another reverb, and it just created that like ethereal pad. It was super easy to make, actually. I was really surprised that I was able to achieve such a complex effect out of pretty simple elements, and I was able to achieve the effect pretty quickly. I know I'll be using this technique a bunch in the future now that I know how it works. You can also use some of the other generators. Here I used the analog generator into a filter with a good amount of a unison on the actual oscillator to create kind of a Reese fuzzy low bass. I used a few of the modulators down here. I used 2 different LFOs to modulate 2 notch filters in order to give it a bit more movement within the sound. So both of those are fairly simple instruments. You can also use it to create something a bit more complex. Something like that. So for this sound, I used the wavetable oscillator as well as an analog oscillator. The analog oscillator is modulating the phase of the wavetable oscillator. That's then getting sent to a comb filter and then 2 resonators. As you can see by everything that's moving around on the screen, I've used a few different modulators. I've used this LFO shape as my main LFO to shape the overall sound. I've used the note modulator to change the resonator frequency so that the resonator frequency follows the note. I use the saturator to add a little bit of distortion to the sound, This is one of their premium snap-ins. I've had it as a standalone plugin for years and absolutely love it. I use it all over the place to add either just a little bit of grit or just to completely mangle something. And then just a bunch more notch filters to give it a bit more movement and cut stuff a little bit randomly. So with Faceplant, like you can really make any sound you want. You can get super complex, adding more and more generators and samplers and so forth, until you like the possibilities are basically limited by how much CPU you have. It's really, really incredible. So where I think Kilohearts really changed the game is with their snap-ins and their snap-in ecosystem. So I guess first, what is a snap-in? A snap-in is any simple effects such as delay, reverb, something a bit more creative like saturator or chorus or a pitch shifter that you can load up into any DAW that accepts VST or audio units or so forth and use it as a standalone. You can also load them up into Kilohearts snap-in hosts, something like Snap Heap or Multipass. Here on the vocal, I've got Snap Heap loaded up. So what Snap Heap is a snap-in host that gives you 4 lanes. They can be run in either in serial, or you can split them out into parallel using this button down here. As you can see, parallel 2A and parallel bus 2B are affecting the vocal differently. So let's take a listen to what's going on with the vocal soloed.
Can you hear me? I am calling out, yeah, calling out your name.
You kind of read this plugin left to right. So serial bus 1, I've just got the Slice EQ, which is an incredible equalizer. I think it's up to par with a lot of the major virtual equalizers out there these days. It's super accurate. And then I go into 2 different parallel buses. I've got one parallel bus that just has a reverb on it, not doing a whole lot.
Can you hear me? I am calling out.
Parallel bus 2B, on the other hand, is doing a whole bunch of stuff. As you can see, I've got 2 pitch shifters. One is pitch shifting it up an octave. The other is pitch shifting it down an octave. I have an ensemble snap-in, which is kind of like a unison chorus effect. I've got saturator again, adding a bit of grit, a chorus, a Haas effect, a delay, a stereo that's just acting as an auto panner using the modulation section within Snap Heap, another Slice EQ, and then another reverb. And I get this like really fun octave effect on the vocal, as well as a filtered dirty delay ambience as well.
Your name.
It's like all these Kilohearts plugins are so incredible for modern production. It's awesome. So let's take a look at one of the other snap-in hosts, Multipass. So very similar to Snap Heap, Multipass is a snap-in host where you can stack multiple snap-ins and use those simpler building blocks to create a complex effect. In this case, I have it on a drum loop. And let's listen to that soloed out. So if I bypass Multipass, you're going to see that it's a pretty simple drum loop to begin with. And turn it on. So what Multipass does is it splits the signal into multiple frequency bands for you to manipulate using snap-ins. So in this instance, I have it splitting into 3 different frequency bands. I have a low, a mid, and a high. The low is just doing a really quick 16th note delay, some distortion, and then some like band passing. And it's really only affecting the kick drum and a little bit of the snare drum there. On the mids, I just have a 3/16th note delay on it. And then we have the high band, which is doing a 5/16th note delay, and then a stereo snap-in, which is just acting as an auto panner. So I was able to achieve this auto panning effect by using the modulation section within Multipass. This is something that I wish a lot more plugins had overall, because it's so easy to be creative with it. In this instance, I'm just using it as an auto panner, like I mentioned. I am using LFO2, though, to modulate the rate of LFO1. So you can see that it's speeding up a little bit and then slowing back down as LFO2 modulates that rate. And you can go much, much, much deeper than this, but it creates a nice randomized auto panning effect that I think is really, really pleasant for the top end of this drum loop. Like I said, I've used Kilohearts plugins all over this session, even on the master bus processing. I've used it right here. I've actually used I've used once again stereo, and I've actually used the rack extension version that is specific to Reason for it. And all I'm doing is I'm just automating the overall stereo width. During the build section, I'm having it collapse down in and get a bit more mono. That way, once the drop hits, it transitions to be a big wide stereo image again.
Carry me away, oh carry me
So that just helps make the build feel a little bit smaller, which then allows the drop section to feel that much bigger as well. So as you can see, the Kilohearts stuff is insanely powerful. Faceplants is just a beast of a virtual instrument, and their snapping ecosystem is super powerful as well. So for more information on any of these plugins or any of the Kilohearts plugins, start at sweetwater.com or contact your sales engineer.